Some of the rumors are just silly. I'm not going to get into what the rumor was, but there was a rumor 3 or 4 weeks ago that I can tell you was never talked about. And I saw it on ESPN. I heard people talking about it. I was asked questions about it, and I was thinking, wow, this is amazing. I can guarantee you it hadn't been approached. No one had talked about it in our organization, yet it's news now that it's a trade that we're considering. And I thought that was completely unfair.
Doc Rivers talking last night about a rumor that was out there a couple of weeks ago that you just heard that he squashed last night on the pregame show. Time for our weekly get-together with Danny Ainge. It's brought to you by ARS Restoration Specialists. Call 877-461-1111 or arsserve.com. Mr. Ainge, how are we today?
Good, Glenn. Mike, how are you today?
Oh, Danny, I'm doing pretty well.
All right, let's get right to it. We talked to Chris Broussard here in the last hour. He, as you probably know by now, because I know you do read these things, claimed that the Celtics were aggressively shopping Rajon Rondo. Any truth to it?
No. No truth.
Have you had trade conversations about Rajon Rondo?
Well, first of all, let me just say this, okay? That these things get out of control at this time of year, and I think that you guys logically know that we are not actively trying to trade Rondo. We talked about this summer before the season started, involving in the Chris Paul situation. We said, no, we're not actively trying to trade Rondo, and that's still the case. Rondo is our best player. He's our most important piece of our future. There's no way that we are actively trying to trade Rondo. That makes no sense.
But that's a matter of
no logical sense. There's a difference between, if somebody, it's like some great thing that we can't refuse because somebody's desperately trying to acquire Rondo, if somebody calls me and says, hey, we want Rondo, we're going to give you X, but that's not happening. We are not looking to trade him. I've made 0 calls to try to trade him, and I won't.
But do you think because Doc says today, he says, I'm tired of this stuff. It's not fair. And he says he's tired of this stuff because we've all heard it. We actually had a guy on our Facebook page say earlier, hey, this is like the 4th or 5th time. Why didn't Danny just go ahead and do it? Why didn't make this trade? He says that because these rumors come up a lot with Rondo. Do these rumors come up a lot because of, is it irresponsible reporting? Is it another GM who's out to get the Celtics? Why do you think this comes up so often?
Because I think it's just the world we live in, Mike. And you guys see this all the time. So going back a few months, it's reported that Rondo's, being actively trying to be traded, which wasn't true, which I said at a press conference. I've said on your show many times. I've said to individual reporters that it's not true. But yet there's still lingering out there that it is true.
The Rondo Gasol thing, is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about Chris Paul, even well before Gasol.
Okay, but the Rondo Gasol, that would be my guess. That's what Doc Rivers was talking about, right?
Right. So the Gasol thing comes out, Rondo for Gasol, and, there's no truth in that. That's never even been discussed. So there's no truth in any of that. But because reporters are looking for something, they think that that's true, and then so if somebody says to them, oh yeah, the Celtics are trying to do this, it just keeps lingering, and so the perception is that we're trying to because there's been 2 or 3 things reported. So everybody thinks, and so listen, we know what goes on in the media world. ESPN has, pardon the interruption, and all the panel shows, and it's a hot topic, and so they got to have something to report on. And I don't think that nobody called to check with me on whether that was true or not, and I'm not sure they care.
Yeah, but if they did, why would it be in your best interest to say, oh yeah, we're aggressively, even if you were shopping him around, you don't want to expose the fact that you may be trying to trade a player, because if it gets back to the player, what's his reaction going to be? And suppose the deal falls apart.
No, I understand all that. I
so that's probably why they don't come back and call you up and say, hey, Danny, and I understand they probably should have, but if they did, I'm not sure you're necessarily going to be totally honest about it.
Okay, so that's a legitimate point, but traditionally people at least check.
Yeah, traditionally.
And listen, I have to deal
Tradition's
with
an old thing.
I have to deal with the media constantly. I mean, if I lie to you one time and deny something, then you know the next time that I'm not going to tell you the truth.
Hey, you could have stayed in the media. You wanted to do this big-time job, remember? That was your doing. That wasn't anybody.
Well,
so
I'm wondering, though, sorry, Glenn, I just wonder, with all of these rumors that are out there, do you, Doc, both of you, feel the need each time the rumor comes up to approach Rondo, have a conversation with him, or does one conversation do the job? A conversation you have with him maybe November, December, and say, okay, this is how we feel, and no matter what you hear, this is how we feel until I tell you different. How do you approach that?
No, I talk with Rondo regularly, as Doc does. So we have continual conversations. I mean, I have conversations with them often. So I don't run to him every time there's something being said or something being done, but I'm very confident that Rondo knows what I think of him, what I feel about him as a player, how important he is to our team. I feel like Rondo is making incredible strides as a player, as a leader, as a teammate, as a player in every way, offense and defense. And, you know, it's almost as silly to me as when the Patriots lose 2 games and people want to, blame Tom Brady. And, when you're the best player on a team that's not living up to your expectations, there's going to be, you're a hot topic. And I think that's a lot of the stuff stems from that.
All right, we talked.
But the old news, I mean, the stuff about Rajon and Doc, I mean, that's old news to everybody in Boston. But that may be, more new news to people nationally. But we all know that they've had bumps in the road. But, Rondo's getting better at that stuff. He's had his best year on the court and off the court. And so it makes no sense at this stage for even that stuff to be discussed.
All right, I understand your reaction to the terminology that Broussard had, aggressively shopping Rajon Rondo. We talked last week about, and you admitted there were many different directions you could go with the future of the Boston Celtics to get them back to the next level as a championship contender. You've won a championship. You came very close to winning a second one. Who knows? Maybe that window is closed right now, but, your job, as you said, you've got to think of the future. Have you now come to the conclusion that the future represents Rajon Rondo as the player, the temperament to be your superstar in which you build around?
See, first of all, I hate that terminology that we all use, to build around. I mean, first of all, nobody is that good to build around. I mean, you've got to have building blocks. You've got to have a 12-man team. You've got to have a starting lineup. You've got to have pieces. No player can do it on their own. So my job is to listen to everything. I'm listening to everything. I don't come to conclusions until except that, LeBron James and Kevin Durant are the 2 best players in the league. I've concluded that. But other than that, I really don't make those conclusions. I got to be ready to react. We have a plan. We have an idea of what is the most likely scenarios to have happen, and we react. And we got to be ready to react and put ourselves in position to have things go our way.
You said you have a plan. You down to one plan now? Because last week you said there were...
No. We have an idea. There's plans A through Z, Glenn, and you have to be able to react. There is no one plan. Nobody has one plan in the NBA. It's too complex. It's too complicated. And if you sit around and try to get one plan, the odds of that happening are very, very slim, of fulfilling that plan. I mean, you can get to that plan as time goes on. I mean, as you get closer to a plan. I know that there's a few teams in this league that have a plan because that's where they are. Where their team is. They're one little piece away, or they have this plan to get this, top-notch player, and they've been in pursuit of for a couple of years. But it doesn't happen like that way normally. There's many options. You have to be ready to react, but you have to be disciplined.
We were talking earlier, Danny, about some of the players who have been in this league, some current players, some former players, and many of these guys, great players, have been described as stubborn and high maintenance, and it's fine. They've won championships. and you may have played with a couple of them.
A bunch of them.
Yeah, with Rondo. I'm not saying you're trying to trade him, but the other part of the story is that he is stubborn and he's high maintenance. Is that a fair characterization of this kid?
No, I don't think that's fair. I think that he's stubborn and he's intelligent, I think, is a fair assessment of him. And so with that, there's higher maintenance, but I don't know a quality player that I've played with that wasn't higher maintenance than your average players.
And I wonder how does and I've talked to him before. I agree, he is an intelligent guy. With stubbornness and coachability, that usually doesn't go hand in hand. How does that work? Where you have a stubborn guy who is bright, but he's also coachable, because a lot of those guys are stubborn and they're bright, and it's very difficult to coach them because of those first two traits.
Right, but isn't it interesting that there were no Rondo rumors over the last few years when we were winning? And he's actually improving on all the things that you're talking about. His coachability, his leadership, he's improving in those areas.
Well, why are you surprised, though, that there are rumors now when if you look at your roster and you try to figure out a way in which Danny Ainge can put together the next winning team, that Rondo and Paul Pierce right now may be the two biggest commodities to be able to get something in return? I mean, why does that surprise you?
I'm not surprised. Okay, I mean, I know what world we live in, and I'm not surprised. I'm surprised that you guys, who I talk to every week, believe anything of this.
Stop it, please, God. Man,
I want to give you guys more credit.
Hey, let me tell you something. This is day one. This is March 1st. The trading deadline closes on the 15th. Get used to it. You got another 15 days of this crap. You really do.
I understand. I know that. And, I mean, it's been going on for a couple of weeks, and, yeah, it'll go on for another couple of weeks. I get it. But I'm not surprised that there are rumors out there, and there will be a lot more. I think you guys have a better feel for the Celtics, for, what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. That's all.
Yeah, but if you're giving us that compliment, and I think Michael and I would take it as a compliment, we're also looking at how you build the next championship contending team. And I know it's not easy, and I've given you many compliments about what you did in 2008, because to me, that was a nearly impossible situation. You got a championship and close to a second one out of it. It was phenomenal. So, yeah, we're looking at that like most other people are, and that's why you're trying to figure out, how the heck does Danny Ainge put this thing together? And is Rondo going to be the piece going forward? Is he going to be the guy?
Right. So, these were similar questions that we had in 2004 and 2005 and 2006, and I understand that, and I know that those are fair questions. But it is a process. It takes time, and there's always things that come across your table. You got to make decisions, but you got to be creative. And you also have to be disciplined in your approach. And, I mean, that's all you can say. I mean, you really have to make wise decisions with the draft, with free agency, with the cap availability and flexibility. So when the right opportunities come along, that came along for us with Ray and KG, nobody could have predicted that 2 months before it actually became an opportunity and an option. But we created those opportunities, and we're ready to pounce on them when an opportunity came. To make trades in this league, sometimes you have to be in the right place at the right time. It's not about intelligence, or it's about discipline. And then you got to make intelligent decisions once you put yourself in those positions.
Yeah, but don't you have to take some risks sometimes? And you took risk in the past.
Yes, I'm not afraid to take risks. And that's why I love working for the Celtics. I have great ownership that they're not afraid to take risks. They know that you have to take risks, and that you're not going to hit a home run on every one of them. Sometimes you're going to strike out, sometimes you're going to hit singles, and they're building pieces along the way. But, we have a great system and a great group of people that have worked together and have a great deal of trust. And I love the challenge of redoing this team at some point.
I just want to go back. You said it, and Doc said it too, that there's some version of this, that the communication with Rondo has never been better than this year, and he's gotten a lot better than he was in the past. What area have you seen that the most, and when did it change? Was it this year? Was it late last year? How did it happen, and when did it happen?
I just feel, Mike, that there's not a lightning bolt that hits somebody, that it's been incrementally getting better. He's gotten just a little better over time, and this year's even better. I think that he came in after the lockout this year, and he was a little more mature. I think he handled everything really well. I think that the little 2-game suspension that he went through recently where he threw the ball to the official, I think is a learning process for young players, and I think he'll learn from that and grow from that. And, I think it's just all a part of the process with Rajon, and I think he's getting better incrementally.
All right, Danny, we'll talk to you next week. Maybe there'll be a rumor or two we can talk about again next week. All right? Have a good week.
Maybe we can come up with some.
Yeah, we can. We'll do that for you, okay?
All right, guys.
Talk to you next week.